Phillies Bacon Fest. Come get your bacon on at the Ultimate Bacon Celebration.
All 32 NFL teams reporting to training camp this month, and a lot of eyes are going to be on the Cleveland Browns. That still feels very weird to say. All right, second-year quarterback Baker Mayfield leading the team to a 7-8 record last year that has since added superstar receiver Odell Beckham Jr. and running back Kareem Hunt in the offseason. Dominique, we got to start with you here with Baker at the helm. What is the biggest concern for the QB heading into this year?
I think it's the head coach. So Mina Kimes has a profile out today that everyone should read. A lot of good pieces in there about Baker Mayfield. They talk a lot about his personality and how it's unique for a quarterback. And he's a brash guy. And that's something that you could be concerned about in the locker room if things go poorly. But I think a guy like that, being someone who's been on several football teams, there always feels like there's a divide between the quarterback. It kind of feels like there's the ownership, there's the coaches, there's the quarterback, and there's the rest of us. But he feels like one of them, and not only is he a good dude and he's a good guy to be around, but he can ball. So I have very few concerns about him and that team that's pretty stacked from the outside in, from the inside out, both sides of the team, and inside on the lines. They're stacked. I'm not worried about them, and they have a great quarterback, but I do worry about the coach. The coach was a position coach. He's a head coach now. Freddie Kitchens was a positions coach at the beginning of last season. You don't go from position coach to interim coordinator to head coach without having some kind of learning bumps and some curves here and there. So I think that he's going to have some trouble because you have to manage the entire team. It's not only about X's and O's, and he's going to have some trouble transitioning. Hopefully the team around him can keep him afloat while he goes to figure these things out.
Well, other than injury, I got no concerns about Baker Mayfield, none. Even let's talk about the coaching. Yes, in terms of the fortunes overall of the team, the head coach, Matt, I don't care if you did well as an offensive coordinator, interim, whatever. You need to know how to run a whole team. That remains to be seen. But as far as Baker Mayfield's concerned, Hugh Jackson, who had way too tight a rein on the offense in the first place, think of last season. Baker Mayfield was only throwing into tight windows, and he was still putting up some numbers. This dude is a baller. Now, in terms of hey, that's not the way the NFL works. Just because you got a lot of glittery names doesn't mean you're going to be good. Usually that's because those names, those name brands who join the team do so as free agents later in their career once they're not the same. Look at what Baker Mayfield is dealing with. Yeah, Zeitler's not on the team anymore. That was part of the trade, and so the offensive line protection not quite the same, and I'm not sleeping on that. But look at the offensive weapons. It's not just Odell Beckham Jr. in his prime with something to prove. It's Landry. It's not just that they got Kareem Hunt. They have Nick Chubb. They got a tight end. Everywhere Baker Mayfield looks, who has a year of experience under his belt of a star, everywhere you look, there is a legit star player on offense, usually two at a position.
Max, you can't say zero concern. This is a guy who's never been there before, and now he's the hunted. He spent his whole career essentially as a hunter, got the chip on his shoulder, always looking for something to prove, having to stare down with his former head coach on the sidelines. That's who Baker is. And now as you bring up, you give him Odell Beckham? Bro, that's nothing but expectations. How do you meet that? How do you match that? What's his why?
Yeah.
What's his why? I mean, heck, a lot of people have the Browns going to the Super Bowl. A lot of people like that roster. Arguably, you can say, correct me if I'm wrong, the most talented roster in the NFL.
Yeah, they're up there. And I think on defense they're talented too. You talk
about as a whole,
you talk about trading away Zeitler. That hurts their offensive line, but I still think their offensive line is good. But they brought in Vernon to go opposite Myles Garrett to help up their D line. They're solid. They're solid up front on both sides. So that is an issue. I do think that what Ryan brought up is kind of true. Even though Baker won a Heisman, he was still kind of throughout college. He was always kind of too small or too this, too that. He had a chip on his shoulder, and Mina explores this with him in the piece where he acknowledges that they are now a favorite, and how is that going to impact him, and what's he going to do about it? And it doesn't seem to me that he's very clear because he still kind of repositions himself as someone who he thinks everyone is doubting and no one believes in. That's not true. It feels to me at least, everyone at this table believes.
When he was drafted number one, there were a slew of questions. Is he too small? How's he going to throw? How's he going to fit? Does he have enough? Heck, this is your head coach. You didn't believe. He came off of the bench. He didn't start. What week did he hop in there? So nonetheless, this guy has been driving himself to success as an athlete. You know it, Dom. You find your why. What's driving you? What's pushing you? What's motivating you? You have to find a way to be there. Yeah. The biggest thing about Tom Brady, he knows what a Super Bowl feels like. He knows how to prepare. He knows how to deal with adversity. I mean, hey, Max, we got to know this is not the next Johnny Manziel. He's proven that far, but is it?
I think that's part of what he's dealing with in terms of doubters, right? Is this Manziel 2.0? Because there are certain similarities, like maybe is he too full of himself? He's not a big guy. He's a really good athlete, but he's not like an elite athlete at quarterback. All these kind of things. Baker Mayfield is a gangster. You can see, like, if you didn't know it in college, you know it after his rookie season. He is a baller. He's the type of what makes him interesting is precisely this. He's the type of personality that you say, can this exist in the NFL? Can a quarterback be cocky and not fit the Tom Brady mold and still succeed? And that was what was interesting about Manziel. The answer was no, because he wasn't good enough and dedicated.
It had nothing to do with that persona because they know what they've seen and they like it. I personally love this about Baker Mayfield, and I know that it's something that will resonate in the locker room. He had that one misstep where he criticized Duke Johnson. Yeah. You don't go after another man's money, and I'm sure some people on the team talked to him about that. But other than that, having a guy like that in your locker room, it gives you hope when things aren't going well. It's something to believe in, and it does give you that us against the world mentality, because no matter how good he plays, there's always going to be a segment of our society who wants to root against him because he's not behaving the way that they ask him to.
Let me ask you guys something. If you're going after a Super Bowl now in today's NFL, isn't the time to do it while your star quarterback's on his rookie contract?
No doubt.
So you can load your team?
Hold up. Not only is that what they're doing, but the dummy Giants gave Odell the cash up front. They're paying $20 million for him to play on the Browns. So basically, they got the quarterback on a rookie deal. God. They kind of got their wideout on a rookie deal.
They should send the ring. They win the Super Bowl. They need to send the ring to the Meadowlands. Send one at least.
So last season, the Browns finished 7-8-1. How many wins are you giving them this season?
I think they're north of 10, and they finished last season, I think, 5 of their last 7. So I think the expectations are high. Their division is going to be tough, because that division is always tough with the Ravens and the Steelers. I don't know if the Bengals are going to be that tough, but the expectations are high. I suspect that they win that division for the first time in many decades, and I think they go north of 10 wins.
The over-under is 9.5, obviously, right? Like, you go 7-8-1, you add all this talent, you're saying, are you going to have, I'm going to take the over. I'll say they're going to have double-digit wins. I'm not prepared to say more than that because the NFL schedule, even when you look at it and you go, that's not the toughest schedule. It changes. It can be brutal. This is a young team. I'm going to say 10 wins.
I agree. Over 10 wins. That defense and run game alone is going to be able to carry them. And when Hunt gets back to the lineup, that's a problem. But if you look at this roster, like, dude, even when they win, there are going to be problems. How are they going to deal with the media? Yeah. Odell does something on social media. Baker says something. You can't do the same shenanigans.
You can if it's that locker room. I think there's a problem when Odell is in the Giants locker room and he's the only one who's like that. And they're like, we don't have
He's the only good player.
But I understand that. But he was also the only one who's comfortable with behaving that way, which I'm comfortable with.
Real quick. I want to say this real quick. Here's the other thing. Cleveland, the dog pound, that fan base. Remember, the team left. Franchise was gone. That was a grassroots movement to get a franchise back. They are starving for success. And when these ballers give it to them, that city's going to be on fire.
What happens when they don't? How are they going to handle their first loss?
They're going to.
How are they going to handle their first loss?
That's the thing. That's why I think that is a value that Baker's persona brings. I think other quarterbacks who are that kind of staid, reserved, it's not a guy that you necessarily want to rally around when things go bad. When things go bad for Baker, he's going to be back in that comfortable position. He's going to be talking that trash and being brash, and those guys are going to rally around him, and they could pull out of that, which is part of the reason why they
get on the same page.
Absolutely.
He got a quarterback now.
Well, despite some little things here and there, everyone seems pretty confident about Baker Mayfield, his abilities, everything about him. So it looks like some good things are in store for the Cleveland Browns this season. All right, coming up next on First Take, what is Louis Riddick saying about the Raiders that has our guys calling him out?